So we'll go ahead and start if that's all right. So my name is Yasmin Murray. I'm the equality rep for Renfrewshire. One of them. Would be happy to have many more of you, and we'll be talking a bit about that to you later. If you're interested in equalities and you want to get more involved, we absolutely want to create a safe space and a network where everyone can come together and share perspectives, experiences and ideas to hopefully move the equality agenda forward in a positive way. So at this online meeting, we will introduce the EIS's local and national equality and shared resources, such as the Sea of Paperwork. And that was a project that was done. Young people were invited to explore themes about immigration, migration and asylum and integration. And that would be something very interesting we'd like to flag to you. Also, the EIS welcome packs. They've been developed for certain age groups, and I know Selma has recently been working very hard on a book for nursery that's really interactive, that has lots of diverse conversation starters that hopefully will even engage our ELCC learners. We also want to be part of a trade union that welcomes migrants, refugees and asylum seekers into Scottish education, and I'm sure you'll all have seen the Refugees Welcome Safe Passage for All posters that the EIS have and have distributed. We'd also like to welcome, this is not just a Renfrewshire a network, we've actually expanded this to neighbouring local authorities, so we are very happy to have anyone here that's not from Renfrewshire but either lives in Renfrewshire or is very passionate about equalities and wanted to come and share, and we absolutely will have time for question and answers and discussions so that people can share their thoughts and feelings. Our first speaker is Pinar Aksu. Hopefully I'm saying that absolutely right, Pinar. Thank you. And she's from the Maryhill Integration Network. And if you have any burning questions after Pinar speaks, we'll ask you to pop them in the chat because she's very busy and she has another meeting to go to after this one. Pinar is a leading human rights campaigner and anti-racist activist in Glasgow, and she does a huge amount of work raising awareness around the challenges that people experience for immigration systems across the UK. She works as a human rights and advocacy coordinator with Maryhill Integration Network, coordinating projects for welcoming asylum seekers and refugees into the community. Pinar is going to speak about the work that Maryhill Integration Network does and current issues around immigration and the new education resources that have been put together by MIN and the EIS. And I'll pass over to Pinar. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Yasmin, for inviting, and to Selma and to Suki as well. I've got a bit of a slideshow to, like a PowerPoint to share. Do you mind making me co-host, or I don't know how it works on Team, but it's just to quickly share, if that's okay. Yeah, hi everyone. So nice to be here. Sorry, I have to shoot off after the presentation. We've got our campaigning and advocacy group on tonight at 5:30, so I'm just going to prepare for that. I'm just going to try to share the content to see if that works. Let me just see. Sorry, I think this happened the last time as well.
Take your time. We all, even when people were joining, we were talking about the difficulties for Teams. We've all come away from it. It's new to some of us. I don't know if Annette's on the call that could make you a no.
No, I'm on. Is it allowing you to hit share, Pinar?
When I click on share, it says, yeah, it doesn't allow me to share for some kind of reason.
Okay, I'll make you an attendee. It should allow you to do it now. I think that's right. Let me know if it's changed.
Oh, now it completely says you can't share at all. Sorry. What I can do is I'll just email it over to you, Suki, and you can.
Yeah, if you email it over to me and then I'll share it. And if you want to get started, that's fine. I think I just done that to confuse. Oh wait, make us a presenter. I think I can change you to a presenter. See if that has changed it.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah.
That still doesn't work.
Okay,
but it's okay. I'll just. Yeah, I'll email over. Hopefully that works. Yeah, so I work with Maryhill Integration Network, which is based in the north side of the city, in Glasgow, and hence the name Maryhill. We work with people who are seeking asylum and refuge, and we've been working since 2001. when Glasgow became one of the dispersal cities to welcome people in the area. We primarily use community development methods to welcome people. So we run direct support work for people. We have weekly group meetings, activities from women's group to men's group to art group to gardening club to advocacy group as well. So there's lots of things happening at MIN all the time. We also do a lot of partnership work as well, because we think it's important that we work with the local community when we are doing various activities and when we are involving everyone else. And we do a lot of outreach work as well, where we go to different organisations and talk about how to welcome people or things to watch out for and things that we need to be aware of when new people arrive in the community. Suki, I've just shared the email with you, by the way, if you want to refresh the email.
It's not come in yet, but I'll do it. I'll put it up as soon as it comes in. 2 seconds. There's
Awesome.
it now. Do it now.
Thank you. I've just rambled through the first few slides. So one of the things that we have noticed over the past few years in terms of problems that people have been facing, and this was very much made aware during the pandemic, was the usage of hotel accommodation. If you want to, you can feel free to pass through the groups, and concerns. So we've noticed the provision of hotel accommodation had a huge impact of the work that we've been carrying out, especially now that people are dispersing to different rural areas and cities as well. The increase in hostility has been huge for us in terms of, with the new Nationality and Borders Act being introduced and with the new illegal migration bill, the conditions for people is becoming more difficult to survive from day to day life. Issues around food insecurity was hugely seen during the pandemic, as well as digital exclusion. Especially when people are seeking asylum, they don't have access to bank accounts. So it had become really difficult for people to have basic needs such as Wi-Fi in the house, to have internet as well. The asylum support itself had an increase of 26 pence during the pandemic, and it went up to £45 a week. And the obvious campaign, and one of the biggest problems people are having, is not being able to work when they're in the asylum process. And if we go to the next slide. So one of the group that we've been working with, which I coordinate, is the MIN Voices group, where it's a peer support advocacy group where we try to create a participatory platform for people to raise some of the concerns and campaign on the issues that directly affects them. So one of the big one was, like I mentioned, was the right to work. And in 2019, we joined the Lift the Ban Coalition. And I would suggest everybody check out their website to see some of the campaigning materials they have, but also what it would mean if the right to work was provided for people. So the next slide. We had a really successful campaign that some of you might have seen, which I'm really delighted with it, was the Our Greats Not Visas campaign. So we campaigned this with a young student, Ahmed, who went to Hillhead High School in Glasgow, who was a migrant student, a young migrant student, and due to his immigration status, he didn't have access to university, as he would have been treated as an international student, and he's originally from Palestine. So together with Just Right Scotland, we campaigned for 3 areas. One, for migrant students who has been here with more than 3 years to have equal tuition fee and treated as a home student in Scotland. And secondly, for children of asylum seekers to have access to higher education. And thirdly, asylum seekers to have access to higher education. And at the same time, there was a legal case against the Scottish Government, and the Scottish Government lost the legal case um, at the European Court of Human Rights, as they found that the young student, who was called Ola, her right to education was violated. So they had to do a consultation process with across Scotland, and as a result of the consultation, which came out, I think now a week and a half ago, the Scottish government have changed the rules. So from this academic year, from August, any migrant students who has been here for more than 3 years with limited leave to remain, and children of asylum seekers and unaccompanied asylum seeking children will have access to higher education and will be treated as home student. And for us, this has been a fantastic way to show that how there could be equal rights of having access to education. We are going to continue to campaign for asylum seekers to have access to higher education as well, to university, as we believe that when someone is stuck in an asylum system for many years, and if they do go to college to study, and if they want to proceed to go to university, they should have this right to study at the university and not treated as an international student. So in the next slide, we've also been campaigning for free bus travel for asylum seekers in Scotland. And this campaign has been going for over 1 year now. And one of the reasons why this came up is, like I said, because people are being dispersed into various locations across the country, accessing to community services, accessing to education, especially to ESOL services, or going to schools or to colleges has been extremely difficult. Even accessing to lawyers has been really difficult as well. And when someone is placed in a hotel accommodation, they're giving £9 a week. And this £9 covers everything from your basic needs, such as buying food, but also from buying clothes and travel as well. So we felt that if the provision is extended to people seeking asylum in Scotland to have access to bus passes, that would make a huge difference, because we know that realistically these hotel accommodations are not going to be not used anytime soon, and it is going to be a long-term way of accommodating people. So we are still campaigning for the extension to bus travel, and if anybody wants to chat more about this, I'm happy to chat later on about how you could be involved. So in the next slide, we also, like I said, are as part of the Lift the Ban coalition and asking for the right to work for people who are seeking asylum. And this has been implemented in many other countries. So usually when somebody is seeking asylum, they can apply to work after 1 year, but they will only be able to work in the shortage occupation list. And the shortage occupation list is very limited with the number of jobs and professions that you can apply to work in. So we are asking for people to have the right to work after 6 months of claiming asylum, because talents are being wasted pretty much, and people are dependent on charities. People are dependent on the very limited asylum support, and the impact on people's mental health is huge when you're stuck in the asylum system for so many years. Next slide, please. So I just want to very briefly touch about the key changes with the Nationality and Borders Act 2022, which is passed now and part of the law. So one of the key areas we've seen is going to create an offshore asylum processing centre, which is in Rwanda in this case. It's going to criminalise when people are arriving by boat, and this has been advanced by the illegal migration bill, where to have the right to seek asylum itself is going to be a crime. It's going to take away citizenship from people without notice, and it's going to very much restrict family reunification, and it's going to create a two-tier refugee system. And as we've heard in the media, those who arrive here legally, those who arrive here illegally. basically this is the term that the UK government has been using. In the next slide, how this violates human rights is it will strengthen the border control. It breaks international protection and law, and it basically is a direct threat to human rights of people seeking asylum and refuge, and it criminalises people both within the Nationality and Borders Act and with the illegal migration bill as well. So the illegal migration bill, the process for that has been quite fast. It went through to House of Lords, House of Commons, and it's going to go back to House of Lords and then to House of Commons again. And this process has been quite fast, to be honest, compared to the previous one. One of the most horrifying elements of this illegal migration bill is anyone who arrived here after the 7th of March. So if you had a child who was born after the 7th of March, that child will never be a British citizen. That child will basically be stateless. And that's huge concerning. And the extension of, again, using military, ex-military camps or using hotel accommodations will be expanded as well. So in the next slide, we go. Moving on to more positive things, quite a big jump from illegal migration to some of the things that we could be doing. What we have noticed is the impact of these new bills, the impact this is having on the communities and the work that we have been doing. So we do a lot of outreach work with primary schools, secondary schools, and with different community groups to talk about the rights of people when they seek asylum. How does it look like? How does somebody feel when they move to a new country? So we developed this resource called Migration Education Resources, and we had worked with two schools, sorry, not two schools, sorry, it was two projects that we had the resources, and then we had worked with various schools. So we did a lot of creative workshops with Knightswood Secondary School, St Fillan's Primary School, and then nursery, and with some of our members as well. The way that we had done this, next slide, that's okay. The way that we had done this is we had facilitated some workshops and also included volunteers from our side who were teachers in their home countries. And we delivered sessions over a period of time. And then from these sessions, we collected all the stories and all the drawings. Sorry, Suki, next slide. And yeah, you can go again. So these were just some of the pictures from the workshops. So after we've done the sessions, we created two resources. One of them is the See Your Paperwork, which is the children's book, which I should have one next to me. Sorry, Selma, you're seeing this again. I did that the other day. So this is the book, the See Your Paperwork. And the way that we created is we used birds as a theme of following migration and following the story of birds moving from one place to another. And we used direct quotations from the workshops within the story as well. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to use the book as a means of sharing stories with the young people in a way that is not very direct to talk about, oh, this is a definition of refugee, this is a definition of home office, but to actually leave it to the creativity of the children and the young people to see how they can develop the stories. And the second element, the work, is under the jasmine tree, and that was we continued to work with St Fillan's Primary School, where we developed an animation. I will show the website in a second, and that animation we wanted to combine that with the resources as well. So these were some of the responses we did with St Fillan's Primary School about how the animation and the book itself made them feel, and how they found reading the book and some of the things that they felt that it was related to them. After this feedback, we actually edited the book a little bit because it was important for us to get that feedback from the young people to see what areas they didn't understand quite a lot. So we then re-edited the book and printed a new version of the book, taking consideration into what they've highlighted. So in the next slide, I think I've attached the link. It should work. So when you click on it to the website. So this resource is open to anyone. So it's for teachers, educators, and it's a work in progress. So although we have developed the website and it's ready to be used, it could always be advanced if needed. So the way that it is if you click on the website, you can click on which resource you want to use. So you can look at the, and for example, this year paperwork book, and it's accessible online as well. So you can read it online, or there's printed versions as well. And then underneath here is the resources, the teaching resources. And this was developed by one of the teachers in Glasgow who read through the book and created the teaching materials. And then it's similarly the same with under the jasmine tree as well. And that one is an animation. So it's an animation where it could be watched, shown to young people, as well as it's got the resources as well. So we continue to use these resources and kind of circulate and share it around, but we also continue to work with schools as well. So we have a project with one of the primary schools starting from September in here, where we're going to explore themes around hop and hop, and we're going to do similarly same work, using some drama, using some collage making, and making sure that we also have volunteers from MIN be involved in this process as well. Sorry, I rattled through quite fast. And I think one of the reasons why we wanted to do this was there's been quite a bit of tension in some of the communities in Scotland, especially in Erskine. And I was talking with Suki and Selma about it, how we can work with the local community, but as well as with the primary school and secondary schools, about if they have anyone who's coming to the community new, and whether that's the young people who has a background of being a refugee or asylum seeker, is how do we speak to them, or how do we ensure that they are welcomed in this school, as well as being welcomed in the community as well, because the language used by sadly by the UK government around the illegal migration bill is creating hostility and not hospitality in various communities. So we wanted to make sure that we can work with the local authorities, with the local schools and other forms of education to basically understand each other, to understand why people move, what does welcoming look like. If you had to leave, what would you take with you? So we've been looking at questions like this, rather than saying this is a refugee, this is an immigrant, or these are why people are moving. So we wanted to relate it to people's personal experience. So I'm happy to answer any questions, or if anybody wants to know more about some of the work we do or any other campaigns we have, happy to answer that now.
Thank you so much, Pinar. I found that really valuable, and I'm sure everyone else on the call did. I think the work you've been doing, and I can see in the background of your picture there some nice advertising for the Maryhill Integration Network, been up there so we could see the logo, and absolutely some really interesting points, about some of the children I work with, parents not being able to access bank accounts, work. You really, when you think about the cost of the school day and paying for things, it really highlights a lot of the barriers to the parents. And I think particularly university leave, for me personally, I find that is something that I believe that all the education in Scotland would advocate for, the right to access education and the right to improve yourself. And you've highlighted some really important points, even the detail with the bus pass, when you're giving us those figures of £9 a week. And I wouldn't wish living in a hotel on anyone when you don't have access to your kitchen, your cooking skills. So really, Pinar, I found that so valuable, and I'm sure everyone else did on the call, or once this recording is shared, people will be able to look at that and really, dig deep into what the real life experience is, and the feedback you're taking, I think, shows that is really wonderful, wonderful, powerful work you're doing. If anyone does have any questions, we'd be happy for you to, we know Pinar's got to go away, so we'd try and keep it brief. We did run over time just a little bit, but if you want to do hands up or comments in the chat, and I'm sure, Suki, you'll be able to share those resources. Everybody loves a resource, so we can go online and look at all the wonderful resources and the teaching resources that you've put up. I'll just pause for a minute in case someone does want to come in. No, but Pinar, and on behalf of all of the EIS, not just Renfrewshire, all of everyone here at this meeting and all of the local authorities working together, thank you so much for giving up your precious time. And I see that you've popped some links in there, and there's already comments coming up in the chats thanking you. So we'll let you go on to your next meeting. Thank you so much, and hopefully you might find more of us working with you and getting more involved in that network, hopefully soon.
No worries at all. And just to highlight, the campaign that we did for the education has been extremely valuable. And we recently did an article about how this is life-changing. And sadly, we do always get some negative comments about people saying, you know, well, our own people don't have access to education. How can they go to university? And it's really important to know about number of people who are seeking asylum in Scotland. It's not a lot of people. And I think that's the narrative that is not known by a lot of people. So number of people who are currently asylum system in Scotland is about 5,000 people. So we're not talking about a huge number of people. And out of these 5,000 people, not everybody is going to want to go to university. It's going to be, I would say, from our understanding, it's going to be just affecting hundreds of people, maximum of who might be. Just 1 second. Who might be going to university. So I think this is really important when we talk about number of people who are in the country and when we try to humanise that as well. Anyway, I could rant a lot, so I'm going to stop now, but I hope the rest of the meeting goes well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pinar. And just to give you a wee shot of the chats, shocked at the facts and figures, really informative and valuable, lots to consider to bring into the classrooms, EAL teachers who would love to work with you. So we'll definitely be forwarding on all your details and the emails that you've attached in your slides, and we'll let you get on, Pinar, and introduce our next speaker. But thank you so much. Thank you. All right, so our next speaker is Selma. Now, Selma, I beg your pardon, I struggle with that second name pronunciation. I'm going to have a go and you please correct me. Selma Augustad, how did that sound? Fantastic. I know that Selma is very active and she's at EIS headquarters for equality and she's leading a lot of the training that I've been on. So I'm sure this is a familiar face if I just go to the bio. She is the National Officer, EIS Equality within Education and Equity Department. Her role involves supporting members to develop EIS work and policy on equality issues affecting teachers, lecturers and learners in Scotland. She assists the EIS Equality Committees. She supports the EIS Anti-Racist Subcommittees, LGBT Subcommittee and Gender Issues Working Group. She's including several equality networks from BAME members, disabled members, LGBT members, and also soon a network for young members. Selma's going to share some of the work that the EIS have been doing around equalities nationally and talk about the new resources available to all members. And I know that there's been a lot of time and effort and she's drawn a lot of different expertise and that she's got a lot to share with us. So I'll pass over now to Selma. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Yasmin, and yeah, great to see everyone here. These events are really important. It's so brilliant actually to bring together what's happening nationally and really root that in local action. And I will say that our equality reps are essential to that. So thank you so much, Yasmin, because you're doing fantastic work to take this forward locally. And we really, you know, it's not going to make meaningful change without you. So I really, on behalf of HQ, I'm so appreciative of everything that you're doing, which is really fantastic in your area. So what I thought that I would do today is to do a little bit of context basing around our work to welcome refugees and asylum seekers into Scottish education in the context of the wider EIS equality work, specifically our anti-racist work, and to draw out some of those connections. And you might see from that, this will give you broader overview, and hopefully you'll see from that some of the connection points that you're already doing and how this work to create schools that welcome all fit into the work that you might already be involved with. So I have a wee presentation, so I'll just start with that just now. I should be able to share. And I also have a video, so it won't just be me talking. Can you see that? Great. Okay, so as Yasmin said, my name is Selma Augstad. I don't expect anyone to say that with a Norwegian accent, so don't despair. Any pronunciation really is fine. There's a lot of funny vowels in Norwegian, so it's hard to pronounce. I guess the foundational principle for what I want to talk about, which is the principle for creating schools that welcome all, is that young people have a right to learn and teachers have a right to work in an educational environment where they are valued and where they can be themselves. So really, if we connect to that core value, there's so much that we can do. And I think there's so much that we can agree on. It's how we take that forward and how we really recognize the diversity and the difference in experiences that we have. I think within this message, there's also a message of solidarity, right? And Pinar was talking earlier about, you know, the media rhetoric creating a lot of fear around asylum seekers and refugees, for example, that isn't really rooted in people's lived experience. And actually it removes us further away from really understanding what it's like to be an asylum seeker and refugee. And I think when we understand that and when we connect to the lived experience of other people, we build solidarity, because there's nothing that is counter to our movement more than division between people. You know, trade unionism at the essence is about collective power, and we can't have that if we pick and choose the equality areas that we get involved with. We really need everyone to stand connected and to stand in solidarity. So that's kind of the founding principles that I wanted to share with you. And in terms of how we take that forward for anti-racism, the EIS obviously is a member-led organization. All of our work comes from you. It comes from our members. It comes from the people on the ground. So I've just mapped that out here in terms of how the decisions are made, how the work comes to me ultimately, and then through the equality reps again, how it's all connected. So we have the EIS AGM, the annual general meeting, where big things are debated. And also going through that is the council, which is meets 5 times a year, and it's the decision-making body with people from LAs and branches from across Scotland. I serve as the EIS Equality Committee, which are nominated from Council. So on that, there are representatives again from across Scotland who talk about how we implement our anti-racist work and our wider equality work, and they make the decisions for what's taken forward and in what way that is aligned with EIS policy. We have an advisory group called the Anti-Racist Subcommittee, and that comprises of equality committee members and also co-opted members from our BME network, because we recognise that at the moment the union is not terribly diverse, and neither is the education sector overall, which is something we're working really hard to change. But until then, again, we need to have that lived experience at the centre of our decision-making processes. So we have co-opted members for that reason, to hear from people and from their experiences within those forums so that they can advise us from their perspective. We have a national BME network now, and there's a few local ones as well popping up, which is really brilliant to see. So those are networks that are open for Black, Asian and minority ethnic members. There's also an equality rep network, which Yasmin's an active part of, which is great. And we try and meet occasionally, share some resources and connect people up with each other, but I think we can definitely do more of that. Then there's the local networks, such as hopefully this one, equality networks that look at how does the national stuff translate to the local and the other way around. You know, how can we have that bottom-up approach as well and feed that in nationally? We also contribute to the wider trade union movement in terms of anti-racism. We send delegations to the STUC Black Workers Conference and STUC Congress and talk about what this looks like for workers in Scotland overall. The EIS anti-racism strategy has 3 components: a learning component, which is about increasing knowledge and engagement for members on anti-racism, which includes the rights of refugees and asylum seekers. An organising component, which is about growing the network and voice of BME members within the union and our work for anti-racism on all levels. And lobbying and campaigns, so we represent the EIS interest and anti-racist position in decision-making forums, including in the anti-racism education programme with the Scottish Government, which has a few different strands to it, and we're working nationally to essentially roll out anti-racist education across Scotland, hopefully. In terms of influencing and campaigning, these are just a few of the things we're involved with. You may be aware of the Justice for Sheku Bayo campaign and the inquiry that's ongoing at the moment. The EIS has been a big supporter of the campaign for justice for Sheku Bayo, who died in police custody in Kirkcaldy in 2015. We take part in the National St Andrew Days rallies regularly, and publicly and openly and in the streets, take to the streets to show our commitment to ending racism and solidarity with refugees and asylum seekers. So if you're interested in taking part in that, they're really good and positive events, and where we can show and demonstrate our solidarity with people standing up to inequality. We send a delegation every year to the SGC conference for Black workers. There's a picture here from last year, which is really brilliant. So members get to experience talking about matters that affect them, that they're interested in, and they get to debate that in this forum with workers represented from across Scotland. We issue learning content and guidance. These are just a few examples. We have a recorded seminar series on Black Lives Matter in education, which we did during the pandemic, and that's online, available through the EIS website. We have advice on challenging anti-Muslim prejudice, on mobilising for anti-racism at work, so how you can take that forward in your workplace, and there's a few other learning videos there as well. Other resources which you might be interested in are myths of immigration, for example, which I think would be really useful, just to think through what are some of the things that you could do to dispel some of those myths that we're seeing in the media, because people, if you're told the same story time and time again, in the end, some of it will seep in, and that's only normal. So there are ways to reframe that narrative, which I think is so important. If the only stories we're hearing about refugees and asylum seekers are painting them in a negative light, then obviously that's not going to be good. So we need to create those counter narratives and make sure that we dispel those myths about immigration. Another really brilliant resource to talk about refugees and asylum seekers and the immigration system is the Tale of the Glasgow Girls. This is a resource that was commissioned by the EIS. It's a teaching resource around the poem The Tale of the Glasgow Girls, which tells the story about a campaign for one of their classmates. I would really encourage you to go and have a look at that if you haven't already. And you can see the Going to School in Scotland resource here, which I'll come back to just now. So that is our welcome packs. So every year we send out hundreds of welcome packs all across the country to welcome new arrivals into Scottish schools. There are packs that are bespoke, so there's different, this one is the primary 1 to 4 one, packs from P1 to S6. They're really, really well received from the families that receive them. There's a parents booklet as well. They've been translated to many, many different languages. There's also an audio version for parents too, which is really brilliant. So there's a few different resources available on that. But instead of me talking through the contents of the packs and what they mean and how they came about, I thought that I would show you. So I have a wee film. I'm going to see now if it works with sound, and if not, I'm going to try again. So I'm going to try this first. Can you hear anything? Okay, let me see. I'm going to go out of this. There had to be something. It was going too well. Let me try that again.
Well, it's only fair that we all have a technological issue so that we all feel that we're on an even playing field.
Exactly, Yasmin. That is equality after all. Okay, let's try that again. So press the button for sound now, so if that doesn't do it.
I know the video is silent for a couple of seconds at the start before someone comes in, so that's what happened when I tried it on the website. So it might be that you hear the next person that comes on screen talking. So maybe just give it a wee couple of
That's
seconds.
a helpful, well remembered.
I can hear Nicola speak, so if she can't speak then maybe there's an issue. No.
You can't hear it. Oh, what a wee shame. That would have been really good.
Not very good with technology, but my only suggestion would be to copy the link and put it into your browser and just play it out with the presentation. Suki, does that sound like possibly an option?
So just putting it in the chat for everyone to watch?
No, just sharing it through their browser instead of embedded in the video.
Try. Do you want me to try that or?
Yeah, either. I can put it.
Okay. Why don't you try first and then if not, I can get it.
Let's say this was a planned 1-minute comfort break then. If you need to go and get something, this is your chance.
Let's see. Oh no, I didn't press the. Just gonna test it. No. I wonder if it's because I'm wearing a headset, so I can hear it in my. Maybe Suki, could you try?
Yeah, 2v6.
Pop it in the chat anyway, if anyone wants a preview while we wait.
I'm sure everyone will know Nicola Fisher, Equality Convener, and if you've got the EIS women posters, we've got them all in our staff female toilets. You might be familiar with some of these stories, so I'm sure this is a very good video. If it doesn't work, time is going on a bit, so maybe we could send that out as a resource for people afterwards, if that's okay with you.
Can you hear it? No?
No.
Okay. It's definitely not, because I can obviously hear it, but...
Yeah, there's a... Did you press the button when you press share? There's a button, include computer sound.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Right, okay, how about this?
Oh, they are not really through your choice, but
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay. You'll hear Nicola in a second.
We can all imagine what it must be like to go and live somewhere else where everything is very different, and to go there not really through your choice, but because circumstances have forced you out of your home, whether it's because of war or poverty or persecution. You might have to travel halfway around the world, but when you get there, here's a resource that tells you that you're welcome, that you're wanted, that this is your new home, and hopefully helps you make a bit of sense of your new surroundings. The welcome packs actually originated from an AGM motion, and that motion started off with Charlotte Ahmed and the members at Knightswood Secondary in Glasgow. And Knightswood Secondary, along with Drumchapel High School, had been schools that were working in the communities where dawn raids were taking place, with asylum seeker families ripped out of their homes and their beds in the very early hours of the morning.
When we first had children who were seeking refuge in our school, there was nothing like this. There were no resources that we could access, and we knew it was frightening for them, but we also knew it was frightening for the class teachers, because we don't want to get things culturally wrong. We don't want to mispronounce names. We need to understand where children have come from and what they've been through.
The idea was to come up with a resource that would help children and young people who were new to Scotland to understand what it was like as a country, what it might be like to go to school in Scotland, and just to help them feel that they were welcomed and that they were wanted and that this was their new home.
So the first year that we sent out the packs to the local authorities, there was about 3,500, nearer to 4,000 that we sent out. A lot of boxes, a lot of packaging. We actually had at one point down the stairs a convoy of people loading into the van for all of the boxes that were going out that we distributed.
The welcome packs produced by the EIS represent a very effective and strong partnership between the EIS and local authorities. As a trade union and as local authorities, we are both focused on what's best for our children and young people, and in this case it's what's best for a group of children and young people who may be vulnerable because they don't have English as their first language.
It's nice having that kind of relationship with different people, hearing the good stories about, like the kids have enjoyed it. It's good to get that kind of feedback, and it's nice to think that people are appreciating that.
The idea with the pack was that it would provide one of the first things that our members, that teachers working in schools could use with a child who was new to English, for example, and that could form some of that initial relationship building between the child and their teachers, and it could be something that they could work on together.
It's lovely to be able to give newly arrived families a gift during our enrolment meetings. So each member of the team will collect packs for new families and present them at the meeting. And it's lovely to see the children opening them in an excited way. They love picking up the pens and pencils, and quite often the children will start using them during the long meeting when we're giving parents a lot of information. And we often take extra packs just for younger siblings because we know that they like to have their own pens and things too. The packs have topics such as clothes, food, Scottish weather, and it's a great conversation starter. There's a lovely, lovely class I was in recently, and I walked into the room and they were sitting together, and they were just sharing. One child was Polish, but has grown up here, and they were reading out the words, and the Arabic-speaking child was reading their words. It was just lovely seeing them working together.
Some of our most recent developments of the packs, for example, have been putting in audio translations, and that again was a suggestion from members on the Equality Committee. When the recent crisis began, in the most recent crisis in Afghanistan, we had translations into Pashto and Dari, and we now have requests to look at translations into Ukrainian, for example, as a result of the invasion of Ukraine. So it is a constantly evolving resource, a constantly evolving work stream.
I think just like other families, our new families from Ukraine have been so overwhelmed by the fact that these have already been translated for them.
And now the idea that this exists to help the fear around what happens when people seek refuge, and also differences in education systems, encouraging us to be more culturally responsive, and actually the children are represented, they can see themselves in the literature, and that's a wonderful thing.
And even this first page with getting the child to write their name, where they come from, and let them know that we value the fact that they speak other languages.
I'm a very proud member of the EIS, and I think it's important that our union embraces everything that will affect its members, and children, their circumstances and their families will directly affect its members. And I want to belong to a union that's equitable and strives for equity for all.
We in Scotland value newly arrived people wherever they've come from, and I think families appreciate that.
It just shows the strength of trade unions in terms of being able to stand up for and to support not just their members, but the communities in which trade unions work. And it is something that we're very, very proud of in the EIS.
Great, thanks for watching that wee film. I'm glad that worked. I just have a few more slides, and I promise I won't. I think we'll catch up on the time by the time I'm done with them. So exciting news that I wanted to share is that we're expanding our welcome to the nursery, to early learning childcare sector. So we're currently working on a storybook about Mo Chara's first day at nursery, which is going to follow the main character from reflecting on the start to nursery to going there, making new friends, missing her grandma, getting picked up, washing her hands, all of those kind of things. So really giving a flavour of what it's like for children who are not familiar with nursery. So that will be suitable for ages 2 till 5. And I think that will really complete our welcome offer. There'll be a parent's guide to that one as well, a guide for early learning childcare settings, and there'll be a drawing booklet to go alongside it, because that's something that the youngest kids have really appreciated in the past, is to have crayons and to get really creative with it. So that's coming soon. We're hoping to do a launch event in an early learning childcare setting at the beginning of next term. So we're just looking into that at the moment, but we're doing a soft launch and a reading through the storybook at the Celebrate EAL conference in Glasgow on the 21st of June. So we'd invite you to come along to that if you can. And I just wanted to say a little bit about the importance of counter narratives. So obviously we've talked a little bit about media scapegoating of refugees and asylum seekers at the moment. And I know that there can be a tendency to think that Scotland is better than other places, and unfortunately, what we're seeing is that's really not the case. We put out a few counter narratives. I think last year, when there was some social media attention on work to diversify the teaching profession, that was met with some groups getting really riled up about the thought of having a diverse profession that wasn't white. So really horrific racist abuse of people who were involved in that, including EIS members online. And we put out a few kind of statements about the importance of diversity. And I think this is something that we can get better at, to show that we celebrate and we value what people bring to our education system, to our society. We're not just talking about what people need from us, but we're also talking about what people bring. So I think that's really important. Part of showing solidarity is to provide those counter narratives and to show that we value and celebrate all people. Other things that are coming up, the EIS is funding the Show Racism in the Red Card Anti-Racist Creative Showcase for schools. These are the flyers that will be going out. They're not finalised yet, which is why they've got a big red dash across the bottom, because that link is not final. But just a heads up for you that teachers can enter pupils' artwork by the 13th of October. It will be a great opportunity to have pupils' artwork showing in an online gallery, and some will also be invited to attend an in-person event. It's a great opportunity if you're interested in the area of asylum seekers and refugees to maybe link that. There'll be teaching resources available to that end as well, and we'll be connecting that to the Tale of the Glasgow Girls resource. So that's just a heads up with something very practical. It's already happening. Don't have to reinvent the wheel. There will be stuff available for you to take this forward if you are interested. And then finally, a few other things that I want to mention that are coming up. I've already said about the Justice for Shakubayo campaign and inquiry. You can watch some of that online if you're interested in how that campaign is going. If you Google it, it should come up. We're also doing a new podcast series. So this will be the EIS's first venture into podcasting about the rise of the far right that we're seeing across Europe. And the impact and intersections of that with equality issues. So there will be one on anti-immigration, so keep an eye out for that as well. Though the first one that we will be releasing will be about misogyny in schools. So you might be interested in that one as well. And finally, just an encouragement to get involved, join your local networks. If you're interested in becoming an equality rep, then please do get in touch. might be learning projects that you can take on. There's loads of brilliant anti-racist learning resources and training available. So please do get in touch. And I think that's me, and happy to take any questions. Thanks, Yasmin.
Thank you so much, Selma. Yes, if anyone has any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat or use the little raise your hand function. Or if you want to turn your camera on and raise your hand, I'll have a look at you. That's no problem. I think that was really valuable, and obviously it's so interesting to see, as Selma was saying, that the range of things, and even me as someone who's quite engaged in equalities, there are things that I wasn't aware of that I've written down that I'm going to go away and look up. So it's always so useful, and I'm sure Suki will be able to put all of those resources together and share them out to all members. I'll just pause for a wee minute in case anyone did have anything they wanted to ask or anything they wanted to share with Selma. I think that's thanks, Selma, coming from Maggie. And I'm sure. Oh, no, it's something else. It's another language at EAL that I'm not privy to, I think. Is that Gaelic? No?
It's Norwegian.
It's Norwegian. Thank you, Maggie. How generous of you to share that with us. That is very, very kind. And things like that can maybe make a huge difference, as you were saying, you know, to have someone learn a word in your first language. I know I learned my 10 Arabic words as an EL teacher, and the difference that made for the families and the children, and just feeling like we'd made an effort. So absolutely well modelled, Maggie. That is fantastic. I'm going to just quickly skirt through just some of the things I wanted to say and then open it up to question and answers, because we know everyone's tired, and I know Selma has to go at 1:45. So Suki, we were thinking we were going to bring it to a close within the next 13 minutes. So the end is in sight, colleagues. I know that some people had to go off on the chat, but we appreciate you giving up your free time. And my plea is really, particularly to any colleagues within Renfrewshire, we are looking to get involved in a local network. We've made some good progress this year, but many hands make light work. And if you have a protected characteristic that you're interested in, that you feel isn't being represented, then you could be that person that comes and has that conversation. And as Selma said, there are little taster training, EIS equality taster trainings. If you log in as with your union member, you can just do it online, or you know, there is opportunities for people to become EIS equality reps. You know, it doesn't have to be, I'm the only one in Renfrewshire currently, but that is not the future. You know, we need more people. We need from the bottom up this to be coming, because I think even from the comments earlier, some people were saying that they are based in secondary schools in Erskine, and maybe if you're facing that firsthand in the classroom or in the playground, it's a very difficult thing. And as we know, our standards for full registration are all about integrity, and the Curriculum for Excellence is creating global citizenship. So we're absolutely aligning ourselves with all the right messages, and anyone feels like they need support doing that within Renfrewshire, I know that Maggie Russell and Kenny Fella, our local secretaries, would be absolutely ready, and Selma at EIS headquarters. I know I've reached out to her if I've needed support with something, and this is everyone working together to try and make it a better, safer, happier place that welcomes and values all. A wee tiny little hint to what could be coming up in Renfrewshire, but again, if you come and join the local Renfrewshire Equality Network, and right now I've got 8 email addresses from people that were on a previous maternity training that would be happy to sign up. You know, we can drive the agenda together. Suki and I have been speaking about speakers, maybe authors or screenings of films, something that can really create a dialogue and insight where no one feels they're put on the spot. I think we all have blind spots, and you know, we all have weaknesses, and that's okay. And you saw me firsthand there checking how to pronounce people's names, and I think that's okay. You do it with good intentions, you do it in a good way. I'm often called Jasmine. I'm not going to bite your head off about it. And I think it's creating that culture, that really fostering that environment. So I'll stop now, and I'll just leave it for a moment. I'll see if anyone wants to put anything in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand and you don't want to be on camera, you just let us know and we can edit that out from the recording, no problem.